What is going on, guys? In today's video, I will show you the best lightning tendrils of Escalation Inquisitor build in PoE Exile 3.26. This setup is a high-scaling, single-target focused spellcaster that thrives on critical strike synergy, mana efficiency, and super high defenses. As its main part, it revolves around the lightning tendrils of Escalation, which is a channeling skill that dramatically ramps up the damage the longer you cast it. When paired with a solid cast speed and a critical strike investment, it becomes an absolute boss-melting powerhouse. The Inquisitor Ascendancy will play a massive role here by allowing us to ignore elemental resistances on the critical strikes while providing a bunch of incredible bonuses for the consecrated ground, then movement-based buffs and even the mana-based scaling. If you're looking for this build's part of building, then click my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM, they are a pro website that provides PoE1 boosting, items and even currency with a cheap price and fast delivery. They have over 17,000 positive comments and this website is really worth a try, so make sure to use my discount code KAID for extra 6% off. So let's start with an overview. This build shines in the in-game content due to its incredible single target burst potential. It's capable of dishing out more than 17 million sustained DPS in a fully optimized setup. Defensively, we are rock solid, as we're using the Aegis Aurora that restores energy shield on the block, while armor and spell block will mitigate incoming damage efficiently. Thanks to the Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh, we gain the Sanctuary of the Tough Keystone from another Ascendancy, which dramatically reduces mana cost and boosts our energy shield, which perfectly complements our channeling playstyle. Cluster Jewels will further boost our critical scaling and recovery. The key to making this build work will lie in the smart positioning, so lightning tendrils will require you to stand still briefly to ramp up, but when you do, the payoff is enormous. It's a perfect choice for players who enjoy a high-risk, high-reward caster. Inquisitor's unique ability to ignore resistances on the crit will ensure that our damage remains consistent across all the enemy types. With a strong mana regeneration, high cast speed and solid block base sustain, this build remains fun and deadly in both boss fights and map clearing. Now let's talk about leveling. Leveling this build will take a bit of planning, since the lightning tendrils only start to shine with a significant investment into the cast speed, critical strikes and the mana efficiency. In the earlier levels, it's better to rely on more stable spellcasting skills, so starting out, Purifying Flame or the Arc provides a smooth clear speed and a manageable mana use. Then the Holy Flame Totem and the Flame Wall can be added for better single target support, especially during Act bosses. Early passive nodes should focus on the spell elemental damage in the Templar section. The Arc of Waves of the Conviction will become your go-to for the lightning-based leveling. Link it with the added lightning damage, elemental focus and the controlled destruction, as these will carry you comfortably through the early acts. As you progress, then start moving towards the Witch area by picking up critical strike and spell damage nodes. Lightning Walker and Heart and Soul will provide great bonus damage, and then once you get the lightning tendrils of Escalation at around Act 3, then begin building around the cast speed, crit and the mana regeneration. A Wand of Scepter with a +1 to lightning gems will make a big difference. At this stage, the Herald of Thunder and the Clarity should be activated. You also want to take key nodes like the Arsing Blows and the Heatseeker along with the Sanctuary and the Elemental Domination to set up your early crit scaling. From Act 5 and onward, you can fully commit to the lightning tendrils. By now, you should have enough cast speed and mana sustain to support it. Support gems like increased critical strikes, energy leech, intensify and the control destruction will start to come online. So continue your path through the Witch and the Shadow sections by picking up life and energy shield nodes for survivability. And lastly, until your block and recovery mechanics are fully online, avoid taking unnecessary hits. This is not a tank, but it will be very soon. Then next up, when it comes to Ascendancy, the ideal path will begin with the Righteous Provenance. This will give us a huge critical strike chance boost based on your strength and intelligence, which are two stats that this build stacks naturally. It sets up your crit scaling right from the start, which is essential for both damage and elemental penetration. Next, you will want to take Sanctuary. This will generate consecrated ground while you're stationary, which will give us a strong life and energy shield regeneration, then even boost our resistances and increase our crit reliability. It also sets the foundation for the synergy with your channel skills. From there, Instruments of the Zael is a perfect third pick. This node provides powerful alternating buffs depending on whether you're moving or standing still, by syncing beautifully with the Lightning Tendrils rhythm of repositioning and channeling. Finally, Instruments of the Virtue will finish the progression. It converts attack damage bonuses into spell damage, which boosts your damage even further once your weapon and critical scaling are fully developed. Overall, this Ascendancy path supports a well-rounded journey from leveling into the late game power. The next up for the passive skill tree, we are focusing it on critical strike chance and the multiplier, energy shield scaling, mana efficiency, and the lightning spell damage. We go through the Templar, Witch, and the Shadow sections by picking up key clusters that amplify spell damage, lightning penetration, cast speed, and critical effects. Elemental Mastery is used to take advantage of the consistent shock uptime and the high lightning hit rates. Then Divine Shield and the Arcane Capacitator will provide sustain and recovery, while Cluster Jewels will give further crit scaling and utility. The build makes heavy use of the Jewel sockets and the medium to large clusters. The Sanctuary of the Tough granted by the Forbidden Flame and the Flesh is the reason why we go into the upper reach area, which explains the reason by focusing on mana and energy shield synergy. Then for defensive mechanics, we will rely on the block, spell suppression, and the high armor to keep this build durable without sacrificing damage. The next up, when it comes to skill gems, your main source of damage is the Lightning Tendrils of Escalation, which is linked with the Awakened Lightning Penetration, Arcane Surge, increased critical damage, Infused Channeling, and the Awakened Added Lightning Damage. This combination provides a ramping channeling power, critical scaling, and efficient mana usage. For mobility and offense, the Vaal Smite is paired with the Shield Charge, Fortify, and the faster attacks, by granting a very strong movement and adding a defensive buff through the Fortify. The core defensive auras will include the Termination for armor, Arctic Armor for mitigation while stationary, then the Tempest Shield for the spell block and the shock immunity, and then finally Precision for the added crit chance and accuracy. Galvanic Fields will add more AoE damage and the shock synergy, linked with the Awakened Elemental Focus, increased critical damage, and even Awakened added lightning damage. Then we have curses like the Conductivity and the Assassin's Mark, which are automated through the Arcanist brand that lets you focus on positioning and casting. Then Molten Shell is triggered with a cast when damage taken for automatic shield, and then finally the Flame Dash will give us a quick repositioning when needed. Next we have gear. This setup is built around the Fractured Vaal Scepter for the spell and lightning scaling, along with the Aegis Aurora for the block base sustain. The shield provides a massive energy shield buffer on the block, making it ideal for the energy shield build with a high armor. The body armor, gloves, boots, and the helmet are rare items that are crafted for the energy shield, strength, intelligence scaling, and resistances. Then the Shaper's Touch gloves will enhance both the energy shield and the accuracy through the stat stacking. Then amulets and rings are high-end pieces with the fracture mods for the crit multiplier, lightning scaling, and the mana regeneration. The flask setup includes the Rumi's Concoction for the block, and a life flask with a bleed immunity, and a sulfured and the basalt flask for damage and survivability. Then jewels like the Watcher's Eye and Forbidden Flame will round out the build nicely, with keystones and arrow boost that elevate both damage and sustain. Overall, the gear setup will allow the build to reach over 2 million boss DPS, even before perfect optimization. Next up we have our Mercenaries. I tested two different variants that complement this aspect of the build. The first one is the defensive focus setup by using Blasphemy and the Amplitude to reduce incoming damage and gain elemental immunity through the Sign of the Sin Eater. Then second one goes into offense with the Summon Holy Relic and the Smite to provide that extra damage and regeneration during combat. In terms of gear, Dying Breath will remain a reliable option for aura enhancement, while the Leer cast will give a flat damage boost from the helmet slot. Then the Zandantu's Cassock is a great armor option. Also, use gloves with the Unnerve implicit for increased enemy damage taken, and boots with either way the Windscream or the Sapped Ground for the curse efficiency or defenses. Then rings like the Kigazaru and the Time Clasp will work for mana and the element resistances. Then rings like the Kigazaru and the Time Clasp will work well for the mana and the element resistance. And then finally, the Shaper's Seed is a solid amulet for the early sustain. Next up we have gameplay, and playing this build is all about the rhythm and the timing. You want to position with the Shield Charge and the Flame Dash, then lock in and fully channel the Lightning Tendrils to unleash maximum damage. The alternating buffs from the Instruments of the Zael will reward both movement and the stillness, so each phase of combat will become a dance between the casting, dodging, and bursting. Use Galvanic Field before big fights to apply shock and boost damage. Then Arcanist Brand will automate curse application by freezing up your focus during intense fights. Then Molten Shell will trigger automatically when damage comes in by helping us to survive rough hits without relying on a manual use. Overall, bosses will melt quickly, and with a high block and the energy shield sustain, you're far more durable than a typical glass cannon caster. And now last but not least, let me tell you a few tips and tricks to keep in mind. Make sure to manage your movement carefully. Moving will reset your channeling, but also refreshes your alternating buffs, so timing is everything. Always precast the Galvanic Field to maximize the shock uptime before a boss fight. Then use Flame Dash sparingly to avoid interrupting your damage windows, unless you really have to reposition. And most importantly, don't try to face tank before your block setup is complete. Play smart and you will feel the power spike once your gear and the trees are fully optimized. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous top 10 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.